Hi, my name is Sage and I'm going to make a paper mache ancient serpent, and to start I'm going to paint this canvas black. I then get some tinfoil and I start by folding it hot dog style, and then I start scrunching it up until eventually I get a semi-curvy shape for the end of the tail. I then continue to bulk it up until I think it's a good size. I wanted it to have some character to it because I know that the middle piece is going to be a lot more simpler. And speaking of the middle part, I made it by folding the tinfoil hot dog style again until it's super skinny, and then I fold it in half before then scrunching it up and then wrapping it in more tinfoil. I do that until I think it's a good size before putting it aside and moving on to the neck. So then I get even more tinfoil and fold it hot dog style yet again before folding it the other way and scrunching it up. I do that so I can bulk everything up from that tiny piece. I then keep adding more and more tinfoil until I think it's roughly the same size as the other pieces that I've already made. And you guessed it, I get even more tinfoil to make the head of the serpent. So what my thought process was to do the same as the others by folding it up hot dog style before then scrunching it up, and then I just keep adding more and more tinfoil to it before bulking up just the base of the head until eventually it looks like this. I also make sure to try and get the head as symmetrical on both sides as possible. Since the head and the neck are now made, it's time to attach them. I start by taking tinfoil and wrapping it around the base of the head and the neck, so now that they are binded together, they are good to go. I then add some more bulk to the neck part as well. So now it's time to start hot gluing all the rogue pieces of tinfoil down. So when I start to lay down the paper mache later, it's a lot easier to adhere because there isn't random air pockets from the rogue pieces. And then to really make sure I got all of the air pockets out, I take a popsicle stick and use it to smooth down each of the tinfoil pieces. And it also really helps with not having huge lumps and bumps everywhere too. And I do that until each of the pieces look like this. And now I can move on to the paper macheing. If you want to see my paper mache recipe, please pause, I have it on the screen. And you may be thinking, why is your paper mache blue? Why did you add blue dye? It's just because it's easier to see on camera. And with the paper mache, I also have a problem with adding too much of the goop to it. So I do use my fingers to thin everything out. I don't know if it's in my head, but I feel like using my hands help it better than the paintbrush. Plus, it's also fun to feel like a kid again while making art. And once I'm done with the paper macheing, I also let it sit overnight to dry. I then prime the dried paper mache pieces with white paint so I have a better base to work with. Also, ignore the paint tube in the video. When I do art, I have tunnel vision and I didn't even notice that it was there until afterwards, and now I feel silly, so just ignore it. And now I am painting all the pieces with an umber brown color. I am mostly focused on covering everything as much as I can. Since the paper mache isn't smooth, it gives it a lot of texture, which is exactly what I want because I want to give it an ancient feeling to it. Then I add in a raw sienna color up top of the umber brown to give it more depth. I also fill in any of the nooks and crannies that I missed with the brown, and I also do that with the other two pieces off screen as well. And then I use a dry brush with a light yellow up top of its tail piece to accentuate all of the little bumps. And I also do this with the other two pieces off the screen as well. And now I am taking some clay to make the eyeballs and eyebrows. I also put them on both sides of the head, even though you won't see one side of it once I glue the serpent to the canvas. I also poke in some scratch marks with my nails to make it look scuffed and old. And once they are baked and cooled, I paint them the same way that I did the body, except I don't add the yellow dry brushing at the very end. And then once the paint dries, I then glue the eyes and the eyebrows onto the serpent's head on both sides. And this is what the three pieces look like now that they're completely dried and ready to go. I was really going for like an ancient-y slash like woody energy, and I really think I got that. So this is what they look like, and now they are completely ready to be glued on to the canvas. And I use Gorilla Glue to glue down all of the pieces, and it's not sponsored or anything like that, it's just it really works. And one of the things that I want to mention with Gorilla Glue is less is definitely more. I've learned that the hard way, so I'm just making sure I'm putting on the bare minimum amount of glue. And after that, off screen, I spent way too much time laying out all the dollar store plants until I liked the placements, and I kept changing everything until eventually I got to this. So now that I have all the placements good, I can then take the hot glue gun and hot glue each piece down to the canvas. When I googled it, if it's okay to hot glue things to canvas, a lot of people say that it's not ideal, but it's art, and I decided since I did this before in another video, I'll be able to do it again. And since we're coming up on the end of the video, I would just like to say thank you so much for watching, and now it's time for the glamour shots.